Hey, my guys, welcome to episode 25 of the My Guys Magic podcast. Pete here. I'm here with my buddy Joe. Say what's up, Joe.
What's up, my guys? 25, Pete. Who would have
25, that's
thought?
crazy. Not me, dude. So, this week, I'm going to run through some upcoming events. Joe's going to give us a meta game breakdown, and then we're going to dive into talking about tournament prep. So, without further ado, upcoming events. The weekend of May 1st is MagicCon Vegas. So we got, I believe it's Pro Tour Secrets of Strixhaven.
I'm
So
excited.
that will be standard. So we'll get to see what these pro teams come up with and help us pick decks for DC or Cincinnati. Because then we have May 15th is RC Cincinnati, also standard, and the weekend of May 29th is RCDC, also standard. And then pre-release for Secrets of Strixhaven is next Friday, and modern RCQ season has already started, and we're starting to see some results from that. So with that, I will pass it over to Joe here.
Yeah, Pete, quick question. What's the format for MagicCon Vegas for the PT? What is it? Is it standard?
I believe it's standard.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so just going to cover modern this week. I think now that we're in the swing of the modern RCQ season, um, this is what we should be focusing on. Also, I just think that standard's kind of in a stale spot, and it's not really going to be in our focus until Strixhaven is out. It looks like Strixhaven's going to be a pretty popular set. That's going to pretty popular and powerful. It seems that's going to shake up the format. I think a little bit. So I'm excited to see what happens with that. And I just don't think it's relevant to for us to be talking about the standard results at this moment in time. But we will get back to what the standard results look like when we get closer to um, the PT and or the RCs for sure. So, and again, if you want to follow along with this discussion, you can go to a Dropbox link in the show notes and download this spreadsheet, and you can follow along with us. Reminder, when we compile this data, we're only looking at events with at least 64 players to include in the results. So there's a lot of challenges that we're not including here. So just keep that in mind if you feel like something's missing. That is why. It's because we're only including events with at least 64 players. So without further ado, over the course of the last week, there were 7 challenges, 2 Haruruya like championship qualifiers, and 1 Collector Legion RCQ that was big enough to be included. Had 96 people out at Collector Legion's first modern RCQ of the season. So
That's sick.
yeah, saw some of the homies in the top 8, of course. Zane Toledo on Yawgmoth, and looked like Zach Amy was playing like Jeskai Control. So pretty cool. But
Oh, me man himself.
yeah, the meats, dude, he's killing. So good for him. So total of 985 players across these 10 events. Uh, 2 of the events were won by Affinity. 2 of the events were won by Domain Zoo. 1 Boros Energy. 1 Belcher deck got in there. 1 Esper Blink deck, a Titan deck, Jeskai Blink, and Simic Ritual. So that's kind of the breakdown of what won. And then for top 8, it's more or less what we have been seeing at the top. So the most popular deck in top 8 across those 10 events was Boros Energy, 14 copies of the 80 top 8 slots, comprising 18% of the top 8 meta. Affinity, 15% of the top 8 meta. Jeskai Blink, 11%. So those were kind of like the 3 most popular decks. Titan at 10% of top 8, which I feel like we're already starting to see that arc where people are starting to get their reps in with Titan in preparation for the RCQ season. We're kind of starting to see a little bit of resurgence in those numbers. I remember seeing one challenge top 8 where there was a ton of Titan players.
Right, and I think we'll see an uptick in that once we start getting the paper results too.
Yeah. Domain aggro at 8%. And then this blue black control list looked pretty sick. I want to see if I can find one.
Yeah, they're also calling it blue black flash.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's looking like. So let's pull up that list real quick, Pete. And I believe it is this one.
Yeah, I like that list.
Yeah, and it's just called Deck. So 6-2, top 8. 3 Tameo, Inquisitive Student. 3 1-drop Tameo. 3 Subtlety. 3 Wan Shi Tong, Librarian. 4 Okish Master. 2 Snapcaster Mage.
Oh, snappy in the year of our
Dude.
Lord 2026.
Yeah. 2 Cling to Dust, 3 Consult the Star Charts, 2 Force of Negation, 2 Shield Jits Edict, 4 Counterspell, 3 Spell Snare, 4 Fatal Push, and a Kaido, 24 lands. Nothing spicy with the lands, 1 Artawara, sideboard, 3 Consign, 1 Psychic Frog, 2 EE, 1 Psychic Frog. What? It's like their companion in the sideboard. Their people were playing like a one of just to like make them feel better. 3
Yeah,
Break Ice, 2
w-
Mystical Dispute. Go ahead.
wonder what are they bringing that in?
They probably are bringing it in against something. Um,
It's pretty good against energy.
I mean, it's not bad against anything. Like, what's it bad against? It's not. It's not really bad. Like, I think you could conceivably bring it in against every deck, and I think maybe that's why they just needed something that, when you're trying to play against a deck that has fewer creatures, you're cutting 4 Fatal Push. But, do you have the space to bring in everything? I don't know.
Oh, this looks nice though.
Yeah, it does look solid. And there were some other blue black control lists that looked similar but not exactly the same as that. And then decks that were 3 to 4%, so like 2 to 3 lists, Eldrazi Tron, Simic Ritual, Living End, 2 Hollow One decks in one of the Haruruya champ qualifiers. A couple Brix's
What?
Shadow. Yeah. Yeah, it did pretty good. 2 Grixis Shadow, 2 Aspergorios, 2 Creativity, 2 Belcher. So the one thing that I saw in Grixis Shadow that I really liked is they're playing Abigail. You know what Abigail is? It's
Yes,
the
I do.
hybrid
I
black white.
actually put that deck together on Moto.
Oh, Grixis Shadow?
Yes.
Did you get to live the dream and make a Death Shadow, a 7/7 flying lifelink
13/13
or
flying lifelink.
13? Yeah,
Yes.
I'm thinking
Yes, I did.
that's
Yes, I
sick.
did.
That's sick. That is so sick. And then
I mean, it was already an 11/11, but it's fine.
in the one-offs category of top 8, 1 Yawgmoth, compliments of Mr. Zane Toledo Meatman MTG. 1 Prowess, a Necrodominance, Jeskai Control, Boyzak Amy, Gru Blue Scale, Grixis Reanimator, Esper Frog, Esper Blink, Eldrazi Ramporous Wildfire. Anything jump out to you there? Hollow One living the dream, bro?
Yes. Yeah, I like that. I got 2/4 1s with Hollow One recently, so we're getting there.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think
I like to see Affinity doing this well. We're gonna keep
I
pushing.
mean the top looks like I would expect it to look, but I think there will be an uptick in Titan once we get to paper because
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of clicks on online.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think Hollow One secret best deck no one's playing.
Secret best deck.
Yeah, that no one's playing.
Obviously, some
That's probably
Japanese.
just cope.
I think it's pretty aggressive. It's getting your opponent dead. I just think that it has the same problem that a lot of aggro decks has, and it can have a weird draw where you run out of gas and don't get it done, right? Like that's kind of the thing about aggro decks. Whereas like mid-range decks and all these like blink decks, generally you have a little bit more agency over the game. At least that's what it feels like.
Yes.
But then you have a problem closing the door, and you can not draw the right amount of particular cards, and you can be left with too much interaction that doesn't get you across the finish line, and then your opponent combos anyway. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's one thing that stands out to me right here, right? I don't see Neoform,
Yeah, and
right?
Neoform may be winning in some of the smaller challenges because I know that you said it won one, and maybe the Neoform event that won on the 9th, which won today, I didn't get it in there because when I compiled the data, it wasn't up yet. So maybe that's why.
Okay.
Yeah,
But yeah, when that deck does its thing, it's scary.
I agree.
Now they're sideboarding into Ice Fang Codal and Oculus.
Oh, when people are trying to deal with the combo
Yes, yeah.
with like force of negation or something.
Yeah, or say you bring in Vexing Bauble to stop their packs, right? And
Oh,
they just
okay.
go end of your turn to Codal, untap Neoform, Oculus.
Mm, okay. I like that. Hmm.
I don't know. Mike said one of them had that in the main deck as well as the combo. I didn't see that list, but there's some people, some good players championing the deck right now. So
All
have
right.
a plan for that if you're going to a big tournament.
Yeah.
Because like we talked about last week, I think, right? Like there's this much energy, then there's going to be a lot of combo. His combo's pretty good game one against energy.
Yeah. A lot to think about here, but it's looking fun, man. I've really enjoyed playing Modern again. You know, after that break since November, you got to clean me up on Monday.
Yes, yeah, Jeskai Blink is fun,
Yeah.
but I'm back on Hollow One.
Yeah. So are you kind of gonna be between one of those two?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Do you think that any of these Strixhaven cards will make it into Modern?
Oh, into modern, probably. The set looks very powerful, but I
Yeah.
haven't looked at it from the angle of modern yet.
I I think it's going to be very good in standard, but I think that they have put the mana cost in the right spot that there's nothing to I think it's going to really shake up standard, but I don't see anything that screams modern personally yet anyway. Um, but we'll look at that more as we get going.
Maybe I don't know. Is Rao just a worse Lily? I don't know.
100%. I think it is.
I'm gonna play it in standard.
I think that's a mistake personally. I could be
Tell me
totally
that.
wrong
Tell
about
me
it.
that when I beat you with it.
All right, so let's talk about Route real quick then.
Okay.
So 1 and 2 black, 3 loyalty planeswalker, +1 surveil 2, which I don't know, it's pretty good in the late game. You know, you're controlling your draws, filling your graveyard with relevant stuff. -1, any number of target players each discard a card. So an ability that's crappier than Liliana, right? Because Liliana
Yep.
is a plus, but you have to discard too. So I don't know. Maybe it's okay. -2, return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So, what are some good 3 mana targets in standard? Like, we don't have
Just
Oculus,
Oculus.
which is a pretty good target, but anything else that scream out to you? Like, I don't think so.
For modern.
No, 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 for standard.
Oh, any 3 mana creatures?
Yeah, not really, right? And
No.
then -7, flip 5 coins. Target opponent skips their next X turns, where X is the number of coins that came up heads. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah,
But you have to surveil 4 times to you have to surveil 4 times to get to that, and then get it not get attacked.
right. But
So I don't
I don't know.
know.
I like, turn one, surveil an Oculus, do something turn two, turn three, play this, get an Oculus back, and it sticks around. That's
Yeah.
what I was looking at. But I'm just
I mean, I think if you do that specific sequence, it's good. But I think that Lily's -2 is.
right. He doesn't protect himself.
I mean, it kind of
So
does, right? It puts a blocker in the way, but it better be a really good blocker.
if you have one in the yard already, right?
Yeah, and so it's like conditionally protects itself, and I don't know.
Two
I
blockers in the way if it's an Oculus.
right, yeah. That ceiling, I think that the ceiling of this card, I don't know. I think Liliana's better. The ultimate on Liliana seems much more attainable than this one because you're taking away
Blessings
your
more, yeah.
opponent's resources,
Right.
but I don't know. You're not taking away yours. We'll see. We'll see. I could be totally wrong. It is a new planeswalker, so they're a little hard to evaluate. But yeah. All right. Let's talk tournament prep. What do you say?
Okay, yeah, let's do it. Yeah, we're gonna talk spoilers next week.
For sure. So after our 5-part series on leveling up your game, I was just thinking about how we had it. We've kind of talked philosophically about all these ideas about playing the game, but we didn't really talk about the process leading up to a specific tournament, like what you're supposed to be paying attention to and how you should approach that process. And so some tournaments I feel like you prep in a hasty fashion and others are much more deliberate. And I know we've all had the hasty prep. Somebody hands you a deck. You're lucky if you get a sideboard guide. Maybe you've played some games with it, or you get to sit down with your friend and they talk you through a few reps. Um, and we've also heard stories of people going on to win a tournament with that kind of a situation. So, but obviously, it's not ideal. I don't think anybody wants to show up blind to a tournament and have to get extremely lucky and or, you know, I think that there are people that are that good and can get that lucky and get it done, but generally you want to, follow a process. So,
Yeah,
so have you ever been in like a hasty situation for a tournament that you can recall?
yeah. So I don't know if this is a hasty situation, but remember, I think it was the last Pioneer RC in DC,
Yeah.
and I was gonna play Rakdos Tree, right?
What ultimately won the tournament?
Yeah, and then the week leading up to it, um, Mono Black Demons started like doing well in challenges and stuff, and became a deck.
Yep.
So Friday, Friday at the convention hall, I ran around and bought all the cards for that, and played like 2 games with it, and registered that.
And it went not great.
Yeah, what was it? It was 4 4 or something. So
Yeah.
not the worst, but it was not the best decision. Should have went with the deck that I had been playing for months, right?
Right. 100%. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about here. So when it comes to the deliberate process, so again, whenever you're going to do a hasty prep and you're going to show up to a tournament and like I don't know, maybe you're going to let LCQ, you haven't played Magic in a while and you're just going to show up, somebody hands you a deck, what do you really have to lose? You're just there to hang out with the friends, right? Let's be real. So the preparation is going to be limited at best, and it doesn't really matter. But when it comes to deliberately prepping, there's kind of three steps that you need to look at in order to optimize your tournament preparation. Number one, assess the meta. And so in our 5-part series, we talked about meta considerations and how that can inform your deck choices and things like that. Number two, get reps and refine. Go back to your group. You got to play the game. And then number three is one that we haven't talked about really at all uh, in that 5-part series, is to have a sideboard guide. Um,
Right.
it takes one less thing off of your mind on tournament day. You can just not necessarily blindly, but you can save brain energy on making sideboard decisions because you can just refer to a guide. It just
Right, and I think you're not talking about buying someone's guide. You're talking about writing out a sideboard map for yourself, right?
exactly, exactly, and
Okay.
specifically using a tool like a sideboard map. I think it's most often done in Excel, and I'm gonna share a link to a version of a sideboard guide. And I think having a sideboard map can help you visualize where you're maybe dedicating too many sideboard slots to a particular type of deck or style of deck, and it can help you refine your 75 and your sideboard plan for a particular meta. So I think that's key. So so assess the meta, get reps and refine, and have a sideboard guide 1, 2, and 3. Um, so when you hear assess the meta, I guess there's a couple questions you got to ask yourself. And what do you think some of those questions are, Pete? Like we talked about this.
Right, so assessing the meta, right? You have to look at the winner's meta game, right? Like
Yep.
what's consistently top aiding recent tournaments in that format. Is there a clear best deck,
Yeah.
right? Is
Yeah.
there a counter to the clear best deck, right? Like
Yeah.
when Vivi was the clear best deck, and then the red with the blue splash, mono red with the blue splash came as a counter, which was pretty good against Vivi, right?
Mm-hmm. Until Vivi was just like, oh, we just play a little bit more
More removal.
removal, and it was totally fine. But yeah, you're
Yes.
100% right. That's a perfect example. Vivi in its form at the time was a obvious best deck, and that version of mono red was a counter to it. But you know, the best deck just had to pivot. You know, another example of a metagame with a clear best deck was when Breach was legal. That was a clear best deck. The results showed it. The way it played out showed it. Nadu, another example, clear best deck. Just play it. Um, and then okay, so we've looked at the meta, and we know that there is a broken deck, or is it? And then you have to ask yourself, okay, there is a broken deck. Can we afford the broken deck? Can we get the cards to play the broken deck? Um,
Do I have time to
do,
get reps in with the deck?
yeah, if I get it, um, am I going to have time to innovate to try to find a counter to the best deck? Right? You gotta ask yourself all those questions. Is this a style of deck I'm familiar with playing? Am I going to be able to learn it quickly enough? And so you start with that, hopefully a few weeks out from your tournament, and say, okay, yes, I can get it. No, I can't. So I'm going to try to play the next best deck or whatever I'm comfortable with in the meta. And
Right, because right, there's an old adage, right? Like play something you're familiar with, right? Is that what they say?
yeah, play what
I
you
mean,
know for sure.
I mean, that holds a lot of weight, right?
Absolutely.
Like, if you know how your deck is supposed to operate and how it's supposed to operate into these other decks, and we talked about knowing the meta, knowing what cards they need to win and what your deck needs to do to stop them. Like, you can get there with the deck if you know the deck in and out, right?
Yeah, and you're comfortable with enacting a game plan that's going to beat the perceived best deck. And then I think it's fair also to consider whether or not you're going to be able to get these cards in time for a new deck. So those are kind of some of the considerations you have to make in your assessment of the meta. And in a more balanced format, you know, you might be able to make a decision that uh, you're going to play something that's a little bit more even. So it just kind of depends on what you have time for. So uh, you got to try to consider that the best you can. And so then number two, get reps and refine. Pretty straightforward. Um, if you're gonna decide to play a deck that you're more familiar with, it doesn't necessarily mean that you should leave it at that. Get reps and refine. You got to build a gauntlet of what you think that at least the top 3 to 4 most popular decks will be, and you got to get reps with them against those decks. And um, ideally, you play against somebody who's comfortable with those decks, and so they know what the lines are going to be to counter your style of play. So you have optimal testing conditions, but and then refine your sideboard and your main deck strategy from there. Understand where the weak spots of the deck are and try to adjust. That's ideal case, right? Um,
Right. You definitely want to get as many reps as you can against what you expect the winner's metagame to be, right?
100%, 100%, and have a decent plan against what the rest of the meta might look like.
And sorry,
No, you're good, bro.
don't do all your testing online.
Yeah,
It's
for
very
sure.
important to get the cards in your hand
Yeah.
with against an actual person, right? Before San Diego, I did all my testing on Arena and convinced myself that this deck was great because I had like an 80% win rate on Arena.
What deck was
And
that?
Arachnos aggro
Okay. You were
went out to
playing
San
in
Diego.
silvers, gold, or something?
No, I was in Mythic,
Oh, all right. But still,
but it's still went out to San Diego and got stomped.
yeah.
Yeah, there's no substitute for actual focus testing in person, right?
No, absolutely not. Um, especially because you can make those adjustments that we talked about during play, like in our play testing discussions, where you'll say, "Oh, well, what if I would have done this?" And you can go back and look at how the game would have played out differently with an open hand, and you can rewind and reevaluate, and oh, let's go back a couple turns, and it's just and talk about a decision in a moment with a friend. You can't do that on Arena. You can barely do it on Moto. I mean, I've seen people play on Moto with in like a Discord, and that's pretty good. But man, doing it in paper is just super valuable, especially because there's like certain habits that you can form with the physical cards, and it just kind of all comes together. Train as you fight, right?
Yes.
And so then, sideboard guide. I feel like the sideboard guide is probably one of the most like neglected components of a person's strategy in the game. Really, your sideboard guide is not about knowing what to do in a particular sideboard matchup, but the effort that goes into building the sideboard guide and considering your decisions, it allows you to think about matchups in a way that really reinforces your learning and concept of the strategy and overall meta, where your deck fits overall into the meta. That's more important. It's really not about how you're going to actually make the card cuts and adds on game day. It's more about the thought process involved with putting the sideboard guide together. Does that make sense?
No, that makes a lot of sense, right? Like I would get tournament thinking about how my deck plays into these decks in the meta, right? What a post board on the draw on the play. How do I want my deck to perform? What do I want to do against specific decks? I can do that a lot better pre-tournament than I can in 2 minutes of sideboarding, right?
100%.
So if I already have a plan, it's it just makes too much sense to already have a plan, right? And it's okay to deviate from that plan based on cards you see that you didn't expect in their deck and stuff like that. But, just having a plan before the tournament for every deck that you expect to see, worth
100%.
its weight in gold, I think.
Um, so I'm trying to pull up this sideboard map. It's kind of a busted Pioneer list, but if we somehow get this up on video, this is a sideboard map from, it's just one that I had saved on my computer. It's 5 color Bring to Light from Pioneer, probably from, I don't know, this is probably like 3 years ago, looks like. Yeah, probably 3 years ago exactly. But what you do, and you can arrange it however you want, and you can do it in different ways, but I just think Excel is one of the most effective ways to do it. So you have your 75 cards on the left hand column with 15 card sideboard at the bottom, maybe the number of lands, maybe in some matchups you'll cut a land. And then you have each of your columns represents a deck in the meta. Generally, you want to sort, from left to right what the most popular decks are on the left over to the right. Sometimes in a metagame that's much more diverse, you almost want to organize by um, the styles of decks. Like you want to organize by aggro. Let's say the most popular, there's 5 different aggro decks. You want to organize by aggro and then mid range, control, and combo, or something like that. And there may be, because for like modern, there's so many different decks that you could play in a given tournament that it maybe makes more sense to organize it like that. I've seen some of Ivan Espinosa's content where he's had it like that, and I felt like that was super helpful. But what this does is it just provides this visual framework for you to look at your deck, look at the meta, and just organize your thoughts and help you trim your final cards. Um, but what I will say is don't get tied up too much in picking out your last, you know, 74th and 75th card. It's better, and I know that you've done it, Pete. I know you've seen me do it where we spend hours and back and forth about what card to have in our sideboard. What's the final card? What's the final card? Where we should have, instead of racking our brains for 90 minutes agonizing over the 74th or 75th card, we should have just played games. You know what I mean?
No, I agree, but I was saying that that 75th card could make my tournament
Oh
in my
yeah,
mind. In my mind,
in your
yeah.
mind, yeah.
It's a,
But like
have
the
to
reality,
justify.
the reality is like you're what, maybe if you're adding a silver bullet to your sideboard, what's the chances that you see it anyway? And then if it's if you're adding like a fourth consign instead of a third consign, maybe there's a little bit more consequential consideration there. But I just think if you get 95% or 98% of this sideboard guide right and you're comfortable with the way you have it organized, the way your main deck and sideboard looks against the majority of the decks, don't worry about that last card or two and those micro decisions in the grand scheme of thing. You've got it laid out and it's going to be fine. And then what happens is in the tournament you might be adjusting your sideboard guide because somebody has this, an open deck list, somebody maybe has a slightly unique take on their sideboard that's you're like, oh, I actually don't want a sideboard like this against this version of this meta deck. So
Right, or you
it's
have cards in your sideboard that you decide, oh, I do need to bring this in now because they have
yep,
X, so I bring in Y, right?
that's right. Yeah, so I'm gonna send this as well. I think it's super helpful. Um, and it kind of has like the neat feature where it sums all this stuff up so you can make sure you have, the right number of cards to bring in, but a lot of
Yep,
different ways to do it.
enchanties.
Enchanties, dude, I miss Pioneer.
Remember Pioneer?
Dude, Bant Spirits, are we serious right now?
Yep, unban Sorin and bring back Pioneer.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. So again, assess the meta and ask yourself, can you afford the broken deck? Can you afford to learn how to play it? Or are you going to be able to spend the time, quote unquote, breaking the format with some new deck and then, you know, make a decision from there, get reps and refine, and then build a sideboard guide. And then, again, don't beat yourself up about the 74th or 75th card. And don't put together your sideboard guide the night before the tournament.
Nope, who does that?
Me and you every time, Pete, and we say it. We're like, let's do our sideboard guide like 4 days before, a week
Yeah.
before, and then adjust and refine. And it's okay to make some refinement the closer to the tournament you get, but you got to have that put together well ahead of
Yes.
time.
Yeah, I don't know how many times I've been writing it the night before and I'm like, I'm just going to bed and don't even finish it.
Yeah. Or you get like the top three decks and you're like, I'm good with that, dude. And then you don't
Yep.
you don't play the top three decks but one time. Yeah. So
Yes, failure is the best teacher,
yeah.
or something they say.
Fail fast. Get it out the way.
Um, yeah, what was I gonna say though? Lost it.
Perfect.
Oh yeah, you were talking about assessing the meta and playing the broken deck. I mean, that's what's cool right now about standard. We'll see with the Pro Tour and stuff, and when Strixhaven comes out if that changes. But right now, it's like 5, 6, 7 decks. You can pick any one of them, do well.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
The standard's still pretty fun.
Yeah. Yeah, man, we're gonna have to start prepping for DC soon. I
Yeah.
figure when's the PT for Strixhaven?
Uh, Weekend of May 1st.
Okay. And then it'll be 2 weeks to the RC.
2 weeks to Cincinnati.
Hmm.
And then
Okay.
another 2 weeks after that is DC. So
Okay. Yeah.
we'll have some data.
All right. Yeah, I'm excited, man. Excited.
Yeah, we'll see. Let's see what if Strixhaven shakes up standard. No, just play lessons.
So what do you think it's shaping up that you'll play?
I'd really like to play Rakdos Monument, but I don't think that's it.
Yeah.
Deck's good, deck's fun, but I don't think it's getting any new toys. So
Doesn't look like it.
lessons or excruciator. We'll see.
What with Excruciator that is kind of calling her name? Just some of those powerful mid-range cards?
Yes. Yeah. I played it the last 2 weeks ago at standard or the week before. Not one. It was really good. And then that new card
Mm-hmm.
could be good in there. The
The
Black
Black
Paradigm
Paradigm.
spell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems good. Yeah. I don't really know what's gonna happen. This set looks kind of crazy. I could see some Sultai control deck being really good. I could see like a demons deck becoming relevant.
Yeah, I was thinking Golgari
But
Demons with the new Planeswalker.
yeah, that
And then
that
the
seems pretty
Golgari board
powerful.
wipe seems nice too. So,
A lot to consider there, but we'll
yeah.
get the full picture. We'll start getting some results and honing our crazy ideas into something more realistic. But yeah, we'll do the
Yeah,
preview next week.
I think we got 40 cards left.
Okay. Shada.
Before I left work tonight, we were at 193 of 233 or something. So,
That sounds right.
yeah. But there's some nutso stuff like the black white Elder Dragon. Which school is that?
Silver Quill, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so the Silver Quill, it's two a white and a black for an Elder Dragon, and instants and sorceries you cast have casualty one.
Which is nuts.
Nuts.
Like, but what are some good token generators? Like,
Oh,
raise the alarm.
I mean, there's some. There's a bunch in standard, I'm sure. You got making pests now, you're making fractals, you got you're in Strixhaven, you just make a bunch of inklings, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got the infestation sage from I forget what set that was from, but it's one black for a 1/1. When he dies, make an insect.
Yeah.
A bunch of stuff.
Definitely some things to consider. I think that mid-range, this set feels like mid-range is going to have some tools that we're kind of getting pulled in that direction, especially with some of these planeswalkers, that I think there may be a
Yep.
real chance that something's good enough. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yep. Mid range might be back.
We'll see. It hasn't felt like it's been around. It's been Cub and Lessons and Landfall, which I guess Landfall is kind of a mid-range deck, but it certainly feels like this bizarre, I don't know, Rube Goldberg machine. But I don't know. If you've listened thus far, we really appreciate it. Please follow us on Spotify, YouTube, X, Blue Sky,
Everywhere.
Pete's house.
Come to my house.
Follow him to work.
Just follow me, please.
Yeah. We still got to get, we're making good progress. We're kind of in like a taking a breath, and we'll start, I'm figuring out the editing. It's getting better. And then we'll start maybe getting on Apple Podcasts and maybe trying to actually post Pete's handsome face on YouTube.
Yeah, you guys need to see this.
Dude, I would be, if I didn't know you already, I would be in love with you. Straight up. Straight up.
I appreciate that.
Pete looked over his shoulder like, I'm
Like,
officially creeped out now, dude.
yeah. All right, guys. All right, my guys, gotta go.
Meanwhile, they'll see me in the closet just
Yeah.
with all these clothes around me. What the hell? But all right, brother, we got her done. It's been
All right.
been a good night with you, man.
Good job. All right, my guys. See y'all next week.
All right, my guys. Peace.